Reddit bedtime stories, how he became my boyfriend without us dating or kissing first. Me, F34, and him, M33, were distant friends from our early 20s. We were in the same friend group, getting together once a month, enough to know what was going on in each other's lives, but never close. I was in another relationship all that time, and when I left my ex, we started talking more and became very close. Friends thought we were dating, but we truly weren't. I needed some time to find myself, and he was afraid of being a rebound. It became ridiculous after 4 months, because we just seemed stubborn for not dating at that point. We talked every day, I visited every weekend, and we were physically close. Cuddling on the couch and sleeping in the same bed. Talked openly about boundaries and how kissing and sex were off limits. We didn't want to ruin the friendship. We talked about dating at this point. I was ready, but he was not. I respected that, and we continued as close friends. 9 months. Then came the part where it was too hard. Being so close, so intimate, and turned on every time we were together. I suggested sex, and he agreed. We set up ground rules, like no kissing, not telling friends, trying it to protect the friendship. A month later, we finally had the talk and decided to begin a relationship. It felt more like a business deal, upgrading the friendship to a relationship. So we were suddenly in a relationship without dating and before our first kiss. We had avoided kissing for so long that it honestly felt a little weird. I moved in after 3 months, we got engaged after a year, and bought a house together we are renovating. I'm now 34 weeks pregnant with our daughter, and will give birth close to our 2-year anniversary. I never thought it would be like this, that someone who had been on the sideline of my life would become the one I love the most. Sometimes you don't know what's right in front of you. I realize I have a pattern of only getting into relationships with women who like me first and trying to make it work. Reflecting on my 3 to M last few relationships, I've realized that in all of them, I didn't really feel that interested romantically in them initially. But the women were the ones who liked me a lot. I would see compatibility issues or flaws, or just not feel as excited as they felt about me. Eventually, I develop feelings for them and become dedicated to making that relationship work. Admittedly, I see that I tend to think that those core issues I saw in the beginning can be fixed, but since they are so interested in me and make me feel good and we have basic compatibility, that's all that is needed as a foundation. Eventually, those things that I initially thought could be fixed or worked around don't get fixed or worked around, and it becomes a problem. I feel like any time I've ever developed a crush or interest in a woman, it is not reciprocated or doesn't work out quickly. So all of my relationships have been because the woman was into me first, and that made me feel good. So I try my best to make that work. As long as I have physical attraction to them, and they meet basic standards I have. Also want to add, I do reject women. I don't get with every woman that likes me, but it has been the pattern of every serious relationship I've had, that they liked me a lot first, and then I follow suit, trying to make it work. Any advice for me moving forward? Is this okay? Or should I have a different mindset? What reasons could cause me to be like this? Thanks. Response: I think I have a tendency to do this too with men. What I know, and what I just keep being reminded over and over again, is that you can't change people. Those core issues you want to work around in the begging should actually be the waving red flag that tells you to GTFer before you waste too much time. If you're not super thrilled about being with them in the begging, then I don't think it's likely to blossom into something more exciting down the line. My completely unfounded advice to you would be to keep pursuing the crushes that really interest you, even if you feel like you've been unlucky this way in the past. I think they'll have the best chance of sparking something that could really catch Yano. Reflect on what you want and need and what you're drawn to. Try to become more assertive about pursuing the women you're interested in, and get better at it. It can be scary to risk rejection or accept there's a learning curve, but there is. Eventually, you're aiming to get some alignment between what you want and a woman who is receptive to your advances. This takes time and may not be easy, but ultimately, this is a much healthier relationship dynamic. Going on a date with a man from a dating app who might be wealthy. I matched with a man on Hinge who has a luxury car in his main photo, and a video of him driving that luxury car. He made a reservation at a nice restaurant for our first date. Tomorrow, I've never dated someone who has been wealthy and I'm comfortably middle income. TBH, I'm not sure how to proceed. He seems sweet and has been taking initiative so far, which is not common with men on dating apps. I think I would be physically attracted to him. I've just never dated or been on a date with someone who might own a luxury car. I say might because it says he's the owner of a luxury car place, and I'm aware that people can lie on apps, like maybe he is working at one and not the owner, and falsely representing himself to get dates. Like, it seems weird to me that he would be flashing his wealth. If I were in his position, I think I would hide it to avoid gold diggers. However, if he is accurately representing his wealth, then I'm not really sure how to approach dating him. I don't think I would feel comfortable with him paying for an expensive dinner for me. But I also don't necessarily want to spend a lot of money on a first date with someone I've never met. How would I navigate that, since he's the one that chose an expensive restaurant? I don't generally spend a lot of money on food for myself, because it's not my priority. Should I ask him if we can go to a different restaurant that's more casual? Or maybe I'll just ask him if we can do a different activity, like walking around and getting a dessert. Response: go on the date, but watch yourself. He could be very successful and trying to impress you. He could also be in so much debt, pretending to be someone else, or using his parents' wealth and passing it off as his own. You need to watch for red flags and look at the reality of the situation. To me, wealth does not mean everything. I went on a day with a guy that was wealthy. Nice car. He had moved back with his parents because he wanted to save money for a house. I thought that was financially responsible. The house was a mansion, and his parents had a beach house as well. I thought, how does this guy not have a relationship already? Well, on the second and last date, he told me he really likes to drink, and that he didn't feel like he had emotions. Red flags noticed, and I was done. So I say try to enjoy the date, and see him for him and not his stuff. I used to date a guy who was flashy with his money. Our first date, though, I had him pick something fun for us to do, so we went to the local Oktoberfest. He only had to spend like $20 for drink tickets. The second date, and all others after, were at very high-end restaurants, luxury resorts, etc. He doesn't care if it's one date or 100 dates. It's how he likes to go on dates. He doesn't care not enjoy the mid-range restaurants. Because of that, he was always happy to pay. I have a very wealthy friend who is not flashy, but all activities and restaurants he eats at are very high-end. He lives the IG influencer life without being on socials. Whenever we meet up for lunch or to catch up, he always pays for everything, and it boils down to the same reason. It's what he enjoys, and how he is used to going out. He knows I do not have money like that. We grew up together as neighbors. So he always pays because he doesn't want to put me in a tight position by doing the things he likes to do. I've 32 meters met someone I really like, 32F, and have been talking to them for a little over a month. We've been on 3 dates, and each one has progressed our relationship further. We've not been intimate, but have gotten a little hot and heavy after the first date. I am, however, struggling with the lack of communication from her, which seems to happen between dates. She just disappears for 2 to 4 days, until I eventually cave and reach out asking to see her again, which then reignites the texting. After our first date, I had to make a work trip to the Midwest. She told me she was very interested, and I was worth waiting for, and she'd see me when I got back home. We texted the whole time I was gone and had date to planned. Date 2 went really well. We held hands, kissed a lot more than date 1, got a little hot in my car, which she calmly told me some things were too soon, which I respected. She later told me she loved the way I kissed her, and has asked me for kisses via text multiple times. Some time went by and she didn't reply to me for about 3 to 4 days. I didn't text her because I wanted to see if she would reach out, but she never did, so I caved and told her I would really like to see her, and she replied pretty fast to set up date 3. She was going out of state for a family emergency, so a week went by. She flew home last Sunday after a 7-hour flight, and still wanted to see me before heading to work overnights. Date 3. We originally had plans for her to come to my house, but I knew flying home from across country at 3 a.m. would be way too much. I drove to her after she requested a change of plans because she was super tired. When I picked her up, she looked exhausted. I told her we should have rescheduled because she was going to be regretting it at work. She promptly said no. I really wanted to see you. We had a nice dinner, and she told me how happy she was with me, and even told me she thinks about me all the time. When we're in person, it's great. There are 0 awkward moments of silence. So much so that the radio is off when we're in the car because we're talking the whole time. We got a little ahead of ourselves between dates 2 and 3, but I didn't mind, and confirmed we were open to dates for the next 3 weeks. Even went as far to plan a Disney trip, her idea, and I offered to have a nice date at my house, where I would cook a meal for us and we'd have a movie, which she said she loved the idea of. After our last date, I can definitely say I'm crushing on this woman. We talked a lot more about ourselves, and we definitely have a lot more shared interests and things in common than we initially thought. She opened up about her family a little more and showed me some pictures of her trip. I've not heard a word from her since Sunday. I've sent her 2 texts, one yesterday, another today, and nothing but crickets. Her giving me these mini ghosting sessions is definitely getting in my head. I was planning on bringing this up on our next date and having the define the relationship talk, but I'm struggling with how to word it without sounding like a needy mess. I just personally feel like if she is as interested as she says she is, she would be initiating texts every now and then. I recently had a horrible experience getting back into the dating world, and I can't figure out if this is just me in my head, or if this person is not as interested as they claim to be, or if they are just a really bad texter. I've asked my friends and I've had varying responses, so I'm coming to you, Reddit, to be brutally honest. I've been told she's probably in her head too and doesn't want to overtext to seem needy. I was told to keep the good thing going and see where it goes. I was told to text her and ask her why she isn't texting back. I can see this backfiring so fast. I was told she's probably dating other people and has me in her back pocket for later. Response: the fact that she left you unread for 2 days is not a good sign. If a guy I'm just starting to see is texting me and I'm very interested in them, I would respond the same day. I just can't see a scenario where waiting 2 days to respond to multiple texts makes any sense, unless I'm just not that interested. It doesn't matter what else she has going on. When you're interested in someone, it's clear. I'd take this as a serious warning. In fact, I would personally be at the point of call it. They just aren't offering me the kind of relationship I'm looking for. And I don't think that what you're asking for is unreasonable. If you want more communication between dates, tell her that, but make it in-person conversation. Some people just don't text a lot. Some people hate texting for any reason other than making in-person plans. Honestly, I miss notifications all the time because my phone is crappy. There was a week back in October where I thought the guy I am seeing was ghosting me because I hadn't heard from him for 2 days, and I was resisting opening WhatsApp to torture myself by checking his last online exit. Finally did, and he actually had texted last, and I was the one who hadn't replied. Whoops. Most importantly, notice if the issue is actually something with the other person or something within yourself. I definitely notice that if I am anxious over whatever work, usually, I am more likely to think, is this a slow fade? But if I'm in a good mood, well-fed and well-rested, generally busy with things I enjoy, it never occurs to me to count the hours between texts. How to respond to the breakup text after 3 months. I, 31F, have been seeing a guy 30M for 3 months. Met through mutual friends. We'd hung out quite a bit, been intimate, texted a lot, etc. With the holiday, we haven't seen each other for a few weeks, but we were texting back and forth, asking engaging questions, etc. Everything seemed fine. Once we got back to town, things shifted, and his responses became sparse. Well, I just got hit with the "you're great, but don't see us having a relationship" text. At the end, he said if I wanted to talk about it, that he'd be open to it, and that he was really sorry. I'm obviously feeling a lot of things right now, but most of all I'm feeling frustrated that I wasn't granted the decency of an in-person conversation or phone call to end things. He hid behind a text. I never would have done this to someone I was seeing for this long. Truthfully, I wasn't feeling like he was super invested, so I was a tad relieved that I don't have to stress about him or his feelings toward me anymore, but I'm feeling really low and worthless, which a guy should never have the right to make you feel, but here we are. I know some people will say to just not respond, but I do want to let him know that the decent thing would have been an in-person coffee or a phone call. I don't want to be accusatory or mean. And yes, I'd like to save face. And I want to let him know that I don't fault him for ending things. I want to be with someone who wants to be with me, and I'd rather know up front than be strung along. But I feel slighted. And I feel like the least he could have done was grant me an opportunity to have some closure via a conversation, especially given that we have friends in common. Edit. Thank you for all the kind responses. I took the day, scaled back my response, and just told him I appreciated him being upfront, but that I would have preferred a call. He actually responded quickly and apologized. Admitted he should have called, and said he was just nervous and didn't want to be insincere and drag it out. And he said he was glad I wanted to chat, and that I was so understanding. I actually do feel a lot better, and I'm glad I told him how I felt, but didn't reprimand or get defensive. And when we do talk, I'll just tell him I get it, and just wanted to make sure we were okay since we have mutual friends. I agree with a lot of commenters here. I think he tried to do the right thing here, and it's just a preference thing. But he's not the villain, and it's not personal, it's just dating. Gotta find someone who wants to be with us. I know closure doesn't help some in a lot of cases, but it's important to me and I'm genuinely feeling better about the situation. Thank you all. Response: I had the same exact situation happen a year ago. I had the text all written and didn't send it. Waited a day and the next day deleted it all and just replied, "Thanks for letting me know," or something brief to that effect. I made myself wait because in prior similar situations, I sent the text immediately and always end up regretting it and feeling like I should have just cut losses and let it go. Maybe not what you are asking for, but I want to say I think your brain is convincing you that if only things had been done differently, you'd feel better. This is an illusion. Chances are you would have been just as hurt anyway. In your position, I'd just say something to the effect of, "Thanks for letting me know." Cease contact and begin to feel comfortable in my feelings' acceptance. Feel that sadness, dwell on it for a moment, it'll pass quicker than you think. Is it already dying after the first date? 36F, and he's a 42M. We're both equally as attractive. He had extended his match with me, so I gave it a shot and was pleasantly surprised. We spoke for about 3 weeks before our first date. About a handful of messages a day, always with questions on both our parts. Finally had the date, and there was immediate interest, Both sides, evident by the touchiness 4.5 hours date, and make out by the end. Now usually I try to not be the first to message, but frankly I wanted to just break the rules. So I did right after the date, with a message about an ongoing bit we had going on, and he replied with intent for a second date. I reciprocated interest and, per his suggestion, tried to align a date that would work for both of us after the holiday. But he never replied to that part, and instead replied to the other part of the convo. And now we've kinda just been talking about other things at my effort, since he hasn't really asked questions anymore. It's been a mix of flirty and regular He's traveling internationally for the holiday week. It's now been 24 hours since I sent my last response. He's been on WhatsApp, I can see his status, but my messages have been unread. For ref, the last message was exchanging some flirty banter, and then asking him how his trip was going so far. I definitely won't double text, as I very much believe silence, with enough time OFC, is answer enough. But should I consider this dead in the water? Or is there a possibility he responds at some point? Response. It's hard to say. Dating during the holidays is obviously a competition against people's busy schedules. But my advice would be to just keep matching energy, meanwhile seeing other people. This way, if the dynamic returns after the holidays, then you can move forward. If not, then you've got other prospects, and don't have to focus on just this one. Also, I recommend talking less and meeting up sooner. 3 weeks of back and forth is what's causing this sense of familiarity and stakes you're feeling right now. What do people do during the holidays? I can't even imagine that they would disappear from Thanksgiving till essentially January. I'm always asking that question. Yes, they have family and friends. But to disappear for 2 months is still inexplicable to me. It's been one date, and he's been away. Don't think about it any more than that. Wait until he's back to see if he messages you again. Go about your life. If he does, plan the date. If he doesn't, then you've already been going about your life. Dating, holidays, estrangement, and strained family relationships. I typically avoid dating during this time of year because I am estranged, very low contact with my family. And I have a big family, 4 siblings. But our mother has a mental illness, and it has wreaked havoc on our relationships. So, as a result, my holidays look different every year. One year, I hosted friends at my place for both Thanksgiving and Xmas. Their single quotes are usually an odd mix of PPL. I know from corners of my life. I've spent it with friends in various different ways, and I've spent a fair share alone. The last time and only time I've really dated someone around the holidays as an adult. The guy was an asshole. When I suggested we spend Christmas together, since he was no longer leaving the city to visit his mum, he said no, and insinuated that me doing a staycation at a hotel and taking a bath and ordering room service was weird. So, safe to say, the fears I'd had about dating during the holidays, while navigating estrangement and strained family relationships, came true with the leprechaun ass-looking asshole. ANYWAY. I recently met someone just out and about. We just had a great second date and kissed, and it was amazing. And we're having some great conversations and laughs. With Thanksgiving getting closer and closer, I am having some anxiety and uncertainty around how to answer him when he asks what my plans are for the holiday, especially since I live so close to home. Do I just lie and say that I'll be spending it with family and not get into any of the specifics? Or do I be honest and say I'm going to spend the day with myself, most likely, cooking and chillin', and maybe watching a movie or something? I definitely don't want any pity, and I am also very sensitive around the subject, because it's not an ideal situation. But after a lot of therapy and self-healing, this is the best way forward for me. Response. I would be thrilled to hear someone I'm dating doesn't do holidays with their family, or at least not big. High expectation holidays, L. My exes all had really unhealthy families, and I'm an introvert, so holidays were hell. Your idea of a staycation sounds like a dream to me. We exist. This guy could be one of us. However you choose to handle it, I suggest that you don't make excuses, as though avoiding dysfunction is somehow bad. A lot of people are so keyed into traditional holiday expectations that they haven't even considered how peaceful and lovely your and my type of holidays can be. Plus, this is a really good screening opportunity. You'll find out if he's open to you doing what's best for you, or if you're supposed to be miserable for the sake of others. I hope it goes well. You could keep it really brief and just say, "No, I won't be making it home this year. I'll probably make a nice meal and invite some friends over. I'm excited to make Zais. What about you?" He doesn't need to know more and shouldn't pry. Edit to add. I just saw another post where someone who doesn't spend it with family spends the day volunteering. Maybe you can do that, and would be fun to talk about. I told him I liked him. I32F mentioned in a daily post on Friday. I was finally going to ask a guy friend, 36M, if he liked me as more than a friend. We were both attending the same event on Saturday, and since I wasn't sure when I would see him again and didn't want to make the event awkward, I was planning on asking after it was over. Things didn't go as planned. He ended up coming with his friends, so he spent a little more time with them. He introduced me, but I didn't want to seem like I was awkwardly hovering or anything lol. They ended up leaving before it was over, but planned to come back. They never came back. I knew I couldn't go home without an answer, regardless of what it would be, so I messaged him. I went ahead, I just explained that I like him as more than a friend, things he's done that have touched my heart. I was okay if he just wanted to stay friends, and he could take his time in responding if needed. He got back to me the next morning, saying he was extremely flattered, but he's not interested in dating anyone right now. His last relationships ended in divorce a few years ago, and he and his most recent ex were in different places to my understanding. He also did still want to be friends, and felt bad if he led me on at all. I've let him know I appreciate his honesty, and told him I want that too, but no more free gifts, lol. I still love hanging with him at events, and would like to see him outside of them, but also understand if he's not comfortable with that right now. I have no regrets with how all this went, and can finally move forward with clarity. I guess I just wanted to say it's hard to take that risk and put friendship on the line, but having the mental clarity makes it worth it. He hasn't responded, and it's okay if he doesn't, but I think we can move forward from this without any awkwardness. Update, he replied. Apparently he's been gifted a lot of stuff, including robots in the past, so he never saw it having other implications. Also did tell me I'm beautiful and have a lot to offer someone, and would be down to grab a drink sometime. I'll probably reply later, but tonight I'm just going to pour a glass of wine, eat some comfort food, and hang out with my cats. Response: oh, sounds like me, about a month ago. I also am 32F, and started to like a friend who is 36M. I brought it up. He rejected it, and I was cool to stay friends. When I say this, I mean it because I only liked him enough to see where it goes, but also be able to quickly lose interest if he wasn't. He said no, and said he valued our friendship too much, and in the end, just disappeared from my life. More annoyed at him as a friend than anything. But I don't chase after men or friendships, so I have since moved on. I personally lose interest quickly when the man isn't interested in me. I got over it within a week, but I can see it still stings for you. Just take your time and do whatever makes you most comfy. Don't know why people are so negative in the comments. I think it's great you expressed your feelings. Whether or not you and him can be friends going forward is between you two. We don't know your circumstances. I've done the same thing, but I didn't want to stay friends, and it helped me get over my unrequited or limerence feelings. Good job. Why are short, almost relationships harder to get over? Can someone tell me why this is? Like if it's only 3/4 months exclusively seeing each other, why is it hard to let go when it's ended? It wasn't even a proper relationship. I wanted commitment at 4 months. He felt we were rushing, and he didn't feel he was on the same page, so we parted ways. It's been 3 months since we parted. I can't even say break up lol, since it wasn't official. And 2 months since we last spoke. I think about this man every single day, and it's taking up so much cognitive load. I can't seem to let it go, which is ludicrous, as it wasn't even an LTR. I've gotten over LTRs quicker than this. I think because he was actually good to me and a sweet person, I can't seem to let go. Can someone please tell me why? Am I the only one? I'm actually embarrassed to say how much I fell for this person in such a short amount of time, and how hard I'm grieving given it was so short together. I can't make it make sense. I'm also 30 BTW, and I am not someone who falls for anyone usually. Edit update. Wow guys, I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. I'm still getting to everyone's comments, but I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who took the time to respond. I really appreciate it and feel really validated. Response. Like the other commenter said, all you have in your head are potential upsides and none of the verified downsides. In a long-term relationship, you really knew the person and all the baggage they came with, making the processing much easier when it ended. You had given it a good go and it didn't work out. With a new connection, all you have are dreams of a potential lovely future and what could have been. You didn't have time to see the negatives, or, if you did, you were still swimming in the new relationship energy to not really see them objectively. Yes, you don't immediately think, what if he was secretly a serial killer and I dodged a bullet? You think of the good things that were and the possibilities of what could have been. It reminds me of when people miscarry and they say it's not like losing one person that you know who they are. It's like losing all the thousands of different iterations of a future child they imagined. Feeling down after breaking up? I, 33M, broke up with a woman 31F. I was seeing for about 3 months. We both have really busy jobs, so we mostly saw each other only on weekends, staying over at each other's places, and sometimes had the occasional weekday date. We didn't really discuss long-term plans or talk about what we wanted out of our relationship. I just assumed we both wanted something long-term. We didn't discuss exclusivity, but I hadn't been on any other dates since our 3rd date. My focus was solely this woman. I don't have a lot of dating experience, so this was the longest relationship I've been in. Overall, I thought she was really nice and caring, but the longer I kept seeing her, the more I kept losing interest romantically. I'm not sure why. It even led to problems in the bedroom. I have depression and anxiety, and maybe avoidant tendencies, which may have contributed to this, and I just signed up for therapy again. But, at about the 2-month mark, I started having doubts that this would work out long term. I liked her company, but I thought I needed to feel something more. These feelings kept festering for another month, to the point I started to not look forward to seeing her, and was even not having fun when we hung out. I thought it was time to end this. I felt like I was doing her a disservice by being not fully invested in our relationship. I wanted to pick a good day to end things. She's an emergency medical resident, so her work schedule is crazy. I didn't want to do it during the week, and have this potentially mess with her work. And reading through Reddit, most people prefer to call or text. So I waited until the weekend, and tried to call her multiple times. That didn't go through. So I sent her a text ending it, and said she could call if she wanted to talk more, and she ended up calling a little bit later. She was very upset and felt blindsided. She said she was really hoping we would work out, and thought everything was going well. She cried a lot, and even asked if I was sure about this. She thought we were progressing well. I felt terrible, and still do a week later. I thought she was a wonderful person, but just not right for me. I feel really bad about hurting her. I just thought I would end up hurting her more if we continued dating, and I wasn't all in. I don't show a lot of emotion, so she probably thought everything was fine. I tried to do nice things for her, like paying for almost all our meals, offering to hold her bags, offering my jacket if she was cold, etc. I was trying to date her intentionally, but just couldn't see myself with her long term. Could I have handled this better? I think I definitely messed up by not being more open with her. It's something I struggle with everyone in my life. I think we should have maybe had more communication on what we were looking for. Response: what you can do better next time. 1. Don't break up with her over text if you've been seeing each other this long. 2. Make an effort to improve the relationship before dumping her. There are ways to communicate. Ask her questions. Go on different types of dates, etc. Asking her what does she need from you, and are you providing it? Sometimes you don't feel connected because both of you are withholding emotionally and not being honest with each other, and that is preventing connecting. There's no need for forcing stuff when you feel this way. Most of us know how it feels, right? Easy, exciting, and with a lot of flowers in our chest. If that is not the case, she is not the one. You owe nobody anything when it comes to dating, and dating below your standards, especially emotionally, will only get you miserable. What can I 3OF do differently to train myself out of self-sabotaging in my relationship? 31M. I30FAM, dating someone new. 31M, and noticing that quite often I want to do toxic things, even when I rationally know better. There's a weird, shitty, uncontrollable subconscious part of me that wants the immediate relief of doing the wrong thing. For example, when I feel neglected, I will just fully pull away and say that I want to be alone because it feels scary to ask for what I need in the moment while I am feeling deprived. I feel like I'm not allowed to get what I need, and that by needing it in general, that I'm a burden. So I convince myself that the best option is to just give them the gift of not talking to me. I'm not doing anything atrocious like yelling or gaslighting or calling names, but it is still harmful and inconsiderate to my partner and makes him feel bad. Why do I do this, and how can I stop? He and I talked about it, and he said it hurts him, and he wants to work through this. I admitted that I was wrong, but I want to make sure I actually stop and keep my word. Response: when you say you feel neglected, what does this look like for you? Recently, I've found myself doing a similar thing to you. Probably because of my past experiences, I find it hard to ascertain whether I'm actually being neglected, or whether I'm being too needy or reading into things too much. And that then stops me from having honest conversations with the guy I'm seeing, so I 100% this. This is exactly a huge part of it. I can't tell if he's being fully normal and that another normal person, not me, would be fully fine with how he's acting, and then I feel like I have no right to feel how I feel, but I also can't shut it off. So, I get scared and withdraw because that feels less scary than being rejected by him if he thinks I'm too needy. I don't have much to add other than, you are not alone. I struggle with this too. I'm in what feels like one of the healthiest relationships I've maybe ever been in, and somehow that's triggering these behaviors even more for me. I saw you mention that you may have had a difficult home life growing up. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend checking out the book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Also, Running on Empty is great too, which I saw someone already suggested. This book shed a lot of light on how my childhood shaped my behaviors and self-beliefs growing up. It's not a quick or easy fix, but knowledge is power, and once you understand the WHY, you can work on changing behaviors that don't serve you. Am I overthinking this, dude? I36F met a really cool guy, 37M, at my friend's house this summer, and he got my number from the mutual friend and took me out on a couple wonderful dates where we talked about what we're looking for, etc. Both of us would like to be in a committed relationship. He had to travel shortly after the few dates, and we had a falling out.
We reconnected last month when I accidentally butt dialed him and have been seeing each other approximately once a week or so. His approach to dating is definitely not something I'm used to. He didn't make a move until our fourth date, which is absolutely fine. And I find it refreshing that our focus is on getting to know each other. The more time we spend together, the more I'm learning that he is rather quirky, which I very much embrace, but I need to know if they're really just his own quirks, or if he's just not.
1 month is a bit too early for me to start asking the "what are we" question. He has many friends and is very talkative and engaging, but at the same time, he spends a majority of his free time being alone, programming and reading. No social media, love it, and isn't exactly the biggest phone user unless it's for plans. Which bothers me because he can go like 2 days without texting me back sometimes. Despite these behaviors, he still pursues quality time with me, sometimes WO sex, which I'm not used to, and it's confusing to me, and always offers to do things to make my life easier, like fixing stuff, helping me move, lending me things, etc. All while being a gentleman in his physical approach with me, to the point where it almost feels like he's still uncomfortable with intimacy. Physical uncomfortable with intimacy. Physical uckle couple sickle culb, physical tackle kuwa, physical kokokol, pukul katical sitsima pitomies isikakana, and the sapper mimps and sin with it would send winks and proof walk and hope would blend and put it to and put a pat on that internet then will add to it with a best set it will what did it to a still with a better you towards the at the about have you time as after a pot at open to man with warm as people with the or was it for what the set it was it that was We've got great banter, and sometimes I'll even joke with him that I think he may be on the spectrum every time I learn a new unique social quirk he's got, lol. Do you guys think this is just a reserved man who is taking his time with me? Or is he just not that into me? Edit. Thanks everyone for your brutally honest input. That's why I love Reddit. When I see him in person next, I'll be bringing up exactly how I feel, and based on his response, I'll have an answer. I'm not feeling great about the outcome, but it is what it is. You need to ask him. We can't tell you if his quirks are just his genuine personality, or if he's not interested. You don't have to ask what are we. Bring up those quirks and get clarification. Ask if he is interested in moving forward, or if this is just casual for him. You guys are in your late 30s. Communicate like it and act like you don't have time to waste. Not saying get married right away, but come on. No one likes their time wasted being confused. You shouldn't be scared to ask those serious questions. Tell him you are getting mixed signals and why. Maybe he will reassure you, and maybe he won't, and you'll know if he is interested in more or not. Communicate with him. Can I just move on after a 2-year relationship? Okay, so, some of you may remember me. Yes, I dated the guy who lied about his career, job, degree. He was unkind about my body, and his parents would constantly say really hurtful things about me. He cheated twice by going on the apps. One day he asks my dad for his blessing to engaged, then 2 days later he flip-flopped, because his parents went berserk, and we broke up last week today. Thing is, I ignored all the red flags because 1. Sunk cost fallacy. 2. I was settling. 3. I just didn't want to be single and do the whole dating process again. And 4. It was nice to have company and spend time together doing our hobbies. I think since January I had a gut feeling this was never going to work. Too many bad things in the relationship were there. His parents are controlling and had no real reason to dislike me. I was also kind and respectful. So I went back on the apps on Friday. I had a great date Monday. I have another date with the same guy tomorrow. I did feel sad at first. I cried here and there, but there was no shock factor. It is all making so much sense. Just wish I had stayed broken up 2 years ago, when I had a gut feeling he's going to give me stress, headaches. I'm no longer feeling down or depressed, and this new guy is refreshingly nice and has a job and has a life. The date went smooth and we had a lot of fun, sushi dinner date and an arcade. He's also cute. Not my typical type, but he's handsome and I feel attraction. Fellow doters, am I moving on too fast? Or based on my relationship, it's okay to just roll with it and continue dating and take breaks if I need to. I learned so much after these 2 years with my ex. So much I could write a novel titled All the Things to Look Out For and Not to Do. I didn't take advice back then because I was afraid to be alone. If things don't pan out with this new guy, that's okay. It's super new. It's the fun phase, getting to know each other and feel each other out. I'm happy to be single. I'm actually okay to be back dating. But is it too soon? I'm meeting my therapist Tuesday, sooner than usual, to discuss the aftermath of the breakup. But it really hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be. I welcome all advice suggestions. I trust this sub's judgment, as it's been spot on in my previous relationship. People are talking about making sure you have time for the grieving process and feeling your feelings, etc. Those are good points, but I'm more concerned about the 4 reasons you listed for staying with a bad relationship. What makes you think you won't simply make the same kind of decision again? People don't just naturally settle for something bad. You have some kind of internal issue you need to resolve in order to avoid making the same choice all over again. By all means, go on fun dates. Nothing wrong with that. But I would be cautious about assuming you can just forge ahead and get it right this time without doing serious work to ensure you're capable of getting it right. Speaking to myself here as much as you. Sometimes a relationship is over long before it's over, and the grieving process is done before you break up. That said, I'd spend some time making sure you've gone through the grieving process. You broke up a week ago today, Thursday. You were back on the dating apps Friday, and went on a date Monday. Either you were ready long before the breakup, or you're not at all ready and are trying to fill the void. You're the only one that can make that call, but it'd be a little fast for me. I'll also say this. If we went on a date, and I learned that you'd just ended a 2-year relationship for days before our date, that would send up a red flag or 2 in my mind. Keep investing, or cut my losses. I've been seeing this guy for more than a month. As I got to know him, I realized he had some avoidant tendencies. E.g., he likes to be independent. He takes a long time to open up to people, and he has trouble articulating his emotions. He also isn't ready to define the relationship. We've discussed it a few times, although he did deactivate his dating profile and isn't seeing anyone else. He is self-aware of his behavior, so it's easy for him to change his behavior if I lay out my concrete expectations. For example, I asked him to respond to my text message within an hour or 2 if he's not busy. He used to take more than a day to respond, and I told him we should talk on the phone every 3 days. So far, he's been doing well. There are other things I want him to change. One example is that he never prioritizes our in-person meetings. He won't schedule a date with me a week in advance, but he is willing to schedule other commitments on his calendar. He just wants to keep his calendar free in case his friends ask him to hang out. I plan to tell him that I expect him to be able to block time in his calendar for going on dates with me. Recently, I have been feeling like a relationship with this guy is like climbing a never-ending mountain. Yes, he is willing to change if I explain my expectations, but it's just exhausting. I started swiping again online, and I just realized I might as well cut my losses now before I get too attached, and find someone who is already more aligned with my basic needs by default. After all, it's not my job to change anyone. At the same time, I am glad that he does change his behavior to meet my expectations. We have a good rapport, and it would be a shame to throw it all away. I am very conflicted on what I should do now. Is this relationship still worth pursuing? Is it normal to be investing this much emotional labor into a relationship? Response: no, I don't think it should be that hard just 1 month into dating. Early on, people in better behaviors, so in skeptical about longer term compatibility problem from both sides here. Cut your losses. Your final paragraph is very useful for people like me, M31, who seem to always get attracted to very busy women who travel for work. The current gal I'm dating set expectations very early on that she doesn't text often, doesn't need the validation, and can't always give it as much as others do. She is also like the man that Oprah has described, in that she seems to make plans with friends a week in advance, and then I come second when it comes to setting up dates. Despite all that, we still have excellent in-person dates. I'll send her a variation of your sample message and cross my fingers. She does seem to have a good head on her shoulders, so I think she'll take it well.